All right, hello everyone. Welcome to another episode of Chris McDaniel's America. Another episode without Chris, unfortunately. It's just one of those schedule things where it's been problematic. We have the production team can come this day, but Chris can't do it this day, and we're hoping that we're working with somebody new that's being trained today, off camera, obviously, that can maybe fill some of those gaps so that way we can get Chris McDaniel's America back on track to being Chris McDaniel's America. But I'm Jack Fairchild, Chris's normal co-host. By myself today, I do not have any co-host today. It was kind of last minute before it was understood that I was going to be by myself. So again, don't want to go too far into that because that's not why you tuned in. You tuned into the Midnight Ride Network to watch Chris McDaniel's America right here on the home of the anti-establishment movement. So we are here to talk about different news stories of the day. And one of the things that stuck out to me, voter ID. Let's talk about voter ID for a second, because I think voter ID is pretty much a common sense thing these days. Look, if you want to talk about election fraud, if you want to talk about people that aren't supposed to vote being allowed to vote, voter ID is a simple way to fix that. It just, to me, looking at things from a logical, rational perspective, I can't see any argument that works against it. And that's part of the thing that I've always found frustrating when I hear folks oppose it, because they're not giving logical arguments. They're giving emotional arguments. I'm always going to side with the logical argument over the emotional argument any day of the week. And most of their arguments are easily destroyed, because if you think about it, what do you do in your everyday life that requires an ID? Simple. You have to have a driver's license to drive a car. So why aren't we screaming that that's racist? Why aren't we saying that that is a problem? Because, again, you have to have that driver's license in order to drive the car. That driver's license, then, you get asked for it if you're trying to purchase something with a credit card. How many times you've gone to the store? You're trying to purchase this item. You want to put it on your credit card. The clerk asks for your license or identification to verify that it is in fact your card. Is that racist? I don't think so. I think, again, that's common sense. We're making sure that somebody didn't steal your card and is trying to use this in a fraudulent manner. So I just, again, not buying the argument. What else do you sometimes need an ID for? There are countless things. Used to, you could point to the obvious of rent a movie. You couldn't do it without an ID. There's not too many movies rentals nowadays, so I don't know that argument works the way that it once did. But there are plenty of everyday activities that require, if you're going to sign up at a gym, they're going to ask for your identification before they grant you a membership. Again, nothing racist about that. They're just trying to verify who they're working with. It's common sense, people. So why do Democrats get all up in arms about voter ID? Because, again, we want our elections to be the most honest and fair elections in the world. Why is this such an issue when it comes to voting? Why is it not an issue on any of the other items that I talked about? Why is it not an issue for those things? But when it comes to voting, Democrats scream, they pout. This morning on the Morning Joe show, Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer from New York, he came out against the Safeguard American Voter Eligibility Act, also known as the SAVE Act. He doesn't like this because, again, this is a bill that will put voter ID on a national stage. If you're voting in a national, you got to produce an identification. Mississippi has voter ID. I think it's a good thing. I was somebody who fought for voter ID in this state. I don't see any problem with voter ID other than the race baiters and those people that want to try to pretend that this is somehow a race thing. It's not. It's a checks and balances thing. It's an opportunity to prove that our elections are safe and fair. Are there still other ways that people can rig an election or fix an election? Absolutely. It's not the end-all, be-all cure to elections. It's not going to fix everything. It just isn't. I don't know that there is the end-all, be-all to elections that could end everything. I just don't know that that exists. But I do think it's a step in the right direction. But, of course, Schumer, while he was on this host, the co-host, Jonathan Lamari, I guess that's how you say it. I apologize if I got it wrong. He looked at Chuck Schumer and he said, "So, Leader Schumer," let me stop right there. Leader Schumer. How about Senator Schumer? I don't elect leaders. I elect representatives. Chuck Schumer is not a leader. He's a representative. He's supposed to represent the people. I don't think he does a good job of it. Matter of fact, I don't think most of them up there in D.C., Republican or Democrat, does a good job of representing the people. But that's a story, that's a rant for another day. But I'll go back to the quote. He said, "So, Leader Schumer, this talk about election security has revived discussions of the SAVE Act, which you have said you oppose. Proponents of it say that it's to have ID, you have to prove U.S. citizenship to be able to vote. Some of the claims they make, to be clear, are overstated." So again, another example of a host leading. Again, he's not being objective. And I don't think Morning Joe's an objective news show anyway. It's a personality show. It's more okay on that type thing. But again, you see already he's leading Schumer to know he's a friend. You know, he said, "I think it's being overstated." It's not. We know for a fact voter fraud happens. We've seen it firsthand. And Democrats are the first to scream it when they lose. Oh, there was something odd going on. Russian collusion or whatever it is they throw out. But when they win, oh, no, our elections are the safest in all the land. You can't have it both ways. Either you see there's some imperfections there that we can address, some issues like people showing up and using names that they're not. Maybe it's a dead relative. Maybe it's a name they paid for from somebody to be able to vote. Who knows? But they're not registered to vote. In some cases, they're not even in the country legally, so they shouldn't be allowed to vote. But Democrats don't want to give this up, so of course they're against it. He went on further. He said, because again, he continued, "We know there's not widespread election fraud, but polling does suggest there's a new Pew Research poll that 95% of Americans, but also 71% of Democrats like the idea." So again, you look at the numbers there, and even if 71% of Democrat voters are in favor of it, clearly, why should Chuck Schumer oppose it? Well, Chuck Schumer, in the most predictable fashion possible, he went straight to the race card, went straight to race baiting when he referred to it as Jim Crow 2.0. He said, "I call it Jim Crow 2.0, and the right wing went nuts all over the internet. That's because they know it's true. What they are trying to do here is the same thing that was done in the South for decades to prevent people of color from voting. For instance, if you change, you're a woman who got married and changed your last name, you won't be able to show an ID and you'll be discriminated against. If you can't find a birth certificate or a proper ID, you'll be discriminated against. This is vicious and nasty." And I said to our Republican colleagues, it will not pass the Senate. You will not get a single Democrat vote in the Senate. We're not reviving Jim Crow all over the country. First off, this is nothing like Jim Crow. And it's absurd for him. And here's the other thing. Schumer knows that. He doesn't honestly believe this is Jim Crow 2.0. He just knows that it's something he can throw out there and say, and it'll get that visceral, emotional response. Now, most people are probably familiar with what Jim Crow laws were, but if you're not, Jim Crow laws were state and local laws introduced in southern United States in the late 19th and early 20th century that enforced it, according to this, racial segregation. The origin of the term Jim Crow is obscure, but probably refers to some song called Jump Jim Crow. So again, this is most of the Jim Crow laws were overturned by the 1965 Voting Rights Act of 1965. So again, this is the thing. There were examples. Maybe it was a literacy test before voting, certain things that they deemed to be out of line. Quite frankly, I think there should be some type of test to make sure you actually know who the people are on the ballot, but we don't even want to check that for fear that it might be called racist. This bill is nothing like those Jim Crow laws. Schumer should be ashamed of himself for saying that. And when Republicans got outraged because he said it as he claimed, it's not because they know he's right. Don't you love it when a politician does that? They say that, oh, they got mad because I worded it that way because they know I'm right. No, why don't you sit in front and actually have the debate about it? Because I think they can give you actual factual information to disprove some of your claims. One claim, if a woman were to get married and her last name changed, she wouldn't be allowed to vote. That's not going to happen, people. Because again, if she got married and she may not have updated her license, but if she got married, how easy is it for her to show up with a marriage license, show up with proof that that's still her? It's not going to be this open the floodgates to discrimination that Chuck Schumer wants you to believe it is. It's not factually, it's intellectually dishonest, the arguments that he's trying to make, and he knows that. I think that's why it's so disgusting, why it's so insulting to so many Americans, because we understand that's not the case, Chucky. We understand identification is required for so many other normal activities in life. And for you and your fellow Democrats to sit up there and try to be so disingenuous that you honestly want us to believe that voter ID is somehow racially motivated? You want to try to say that because a woman got married, she's not going to be able to vote? First off, it's real easy too, because guess where you get your marriage license? The circuit clerk's office. Guess where you can change your name on the voting roll? Circuit clerk's office. You're at the same place. Take care of two stones right there. Kill two birds, one stone right there. Not that hard. You don't want to do that. If you don't want to take care of that at that time, that falls back on you a little bit, doesn't it? So again, and plus most places that I've gone to vote, they're so paranoid about being accused of discrimination, they will figure out a way to let you vote by affidavit, and then you can supply the additional stuff and your vote will count. Chucky, he doesn't want you to believe that that's the case. He would rather use this emotional argument against every logical argument. That's the trick. I was talking with some friends the other day, and I say this all the time on my other show, the Right Side Radio Show, that I have a hard time dealing with folks who only argue the emotional point. I need logic and reason. I need facts in front of me. If you're going to convince me to be on your side on any argument, political or non-political, I need to see some logic behind it. Because if I can't, my brain just doesn't process it. I understand emotional. I understand getting upset over certain things. But if you can't come behind it with that logical, rational reasoning to back up your emotional argument, I have a hard time with it. And I don't see a logical, rational argument against voter ID in any scale. It just makes no sense. But Democrats have adamantly fought against this. Why do you think that is? Could it be possible that they're the party that most benefits from people voting illegally? Is it possible that they're the party that has the most to gain if your dead aunt can still vote? It begs the reason, because it's a question that should be asked. Because if they can't give me a logical explanation for why they're so adamantly against something as common sense as voter ID, the logical reasoning for why they would be adamantly against it is they're benefiting from the fraud. We can sit here and tell ourselves that our elections are the freest and safest and there's not that much fraud going on, but I don't think that's true at all. Just the other day, I heard a politician talk about how there's still payments from Medicaid in our state going to people that have been dead for a few years. We're still paying Medicaid payments to them. They're not even here. If government can't clean up the Medicaid roll, do you really trust that they're running elections on the most efficient and that we're making sure that there's not fraud? I don't. I think this is a common sense way to help protect us from that. I'm sorry, I had to take a quick sip there on the air. Normally, this is where I'd throw to a co-host and have them take me off camera for a second, but unfortunately today that's not possible. We are currently in what I like to call Mississippi schizophrenic winter season, where just 2 days ago, the high got up to 67, and today we're back to ridiculous cold, and that does wreak havoc on my throat. So yeah, you're going to see me take a couple of sips every now and then. And you may even get a cough slipped in like that. So it's just fun time of year to live in Mississippi for sure. Chuck Schumer and the other Democrats, they know they're being dishonest, but they know by playing that emotional response to you, by making that emotional argument, that they're likely to get you to follow them. They're likely to get you to go down the path they want you to. You're likely to listen to them and go, you know what? This is scary. There's a reason why he chose the woman getting married. There's a reason why he went that route. Because even though he knows that that is fundamentally dishonest and untrue, it's going to get some folks scared. You see, fear is a powerful tool in politics. Fear is one of those things that if they throw it out there enough, and you're scared that this voter ID, which is something you probably can look inside your head and say that makes sense. But if they can put out scenarios like this that scare you, you'll come around to their way of thinking. You'll come around to thinking that, this could be problematic. What happens if I change my name? What happens if I get married? Am I going to be allowed to vote? Because if I get married a month before the election, they don't have time to change the voter rolls. And my last name on my driver's license doesn't match the last name on the voter roll. I'm not going to be allowed to vote. First off, how many women get married and then immediately go to the EMV and change their driver's license? I'm sure there are a few, but if they're that insistent, they're probably also the very few women that would also go and have their name changed on the voter roll, so it wouldn't be a problem in the first place. So most women, after they get married, if the election's in a week or two, they're not going to go change their license or their ID card right then. It's still going to have their maiden name on it. And if we're talking about a woman that's been married for a year or two, and they still haven't gone and made those necessary changes, am I supposed to feel bad for her? Or am I going to sit here and say, well, she knew this was possible. Why wouldn't you go take care of it? It's not that hard. When I moved, I went to the circuit clerk's office, had my voting address changed. Wasn't hard. You're supposed to do it. It's what it is when it comes to that. Again, these emotional arguments that people make, it just drives me crazy because, again, you see it in multiple arguments. We've seen it in school choice arguments where, again, we're not arguing about the actual idea of school choice. We're arguing about the possibility of what this could happen, how this could happen. Well, show me how that's going to happen. Don't just tell me it could. Convince me. That, again, it's the same thing here. Emotional arguments will carry weight because it works on people. People hear that emotional argument. They stop researching at that point. They instantly go to the fear card. Politicians, on both sides of the fence, mind you, they can tap into that. They understand that because they understand that gives them leverage. That gives them the possibility to convince you that you need to be opposing this. You don't need to be in favor of voter ID. So the emotional argument gets played. It goes into your insecurities. It goes into your fears. Chuck Schumer was very deliberate in trying to say this is Jim Crow 2.0 because he's hoping that the African American community will see this and they'll fear it. He's hoping that they'll get so outraged that they'll come out against it too. He's pandering for votes, essentially. It's what he does. Chuck Schumer, he's one of the many politicians in D.C. that's been there far too long and needs to just come home. There are multiple politicians we can name ourselves that we know have been there far too long. And he's just one of them. But because he's been there so long, he knows how to play this game. He knows how to set up this entire emotional appeal to you. Appeal to you through fear. Appeal to you through the what if this happens scenario. Without explaining anything logically how we could get from here to here. Because he doesn't have the logic and reason behind him. He'll throw out this very, very rare scenario, the marriage scenario, because he knows it can create that fear. And he knows that if you're sitting there thinking about this, you as a woman that's about to get married, you're not thinking that, hey, if there's an election coming up, I may just not need to go change my license at that time until after the election, or I need to go and have my name changed right there. So again, because you're not thinking about how easy it is to remedy this, that fear sets in. And once that fear sets in, you turn against something as common sense as voter ID. It's worked for a long time, and it still works. I don't think it's going to work when it comes to public opinion on voter ID. I don't think it's going to work when it comes to how folks view voter ID, because I think you saw the numbers as I read them out. I mean, when you've got, it's not a shock to see 95% of Republicans support it. It is shocking to see 71% of Democrats polled support it. I can't remember a time where Democrats thought it was that high, but I think, again, we've gone through the 2020 election where our side screamed voter fraud and a rigged election, and now the Democrats have gone through 2 Trump elections that they still blame on voter fraud. So to me, it makes sense that now they're probably thinking voter ID is a good idea too. But again, it's just common sense. And Schumer, by playing this card, he's trying to flip some of those numbers. And he's trying to do it very, very deliberately. He's trying to do it through fear. He's trying to do it by playing to your emotional card. He's trying to do it in a manner that is fundamentally and intellectually dishonest. And he knows that. I think that's why it disgusts me so much. That's why I'm disgusted there, old Chucky. It's not because I know you're right, because I honestly know that you're not right. I honestly know you're a dishonest, career politician who's been in Washington far too long, and you're a bag of hot air who needs to just go ahead and come home. Unfortunately, you live up there in New York, and they will continue to vote for you as long as you run the same sickness that continues to get people like Nancy Pelosi, Mitch McConnell, all of these folks who just went to Washington and turned it into a career. The founders never intended for that. Of course, that's a rant for another day. It's a rant that we can come back to at any time. Of course, I think we're coming up quickly on our first commercial break here. So I'm going to pause right here for a word from our sponsors. I'm Jack Fairchilds, and this is Chris McDaniel's America here on the Midnight Ride Network, your home for the anti-establishment movement.
Resort.
All right, guys, welcome back here to Chris McDaniel's America. If you're just tuning in to us live, yes, I know I'm not Chris. I'm Jack Fairchilds, his regular co-host. We really, Chris wants to be back. It's just, again, a busy time for him, and we are hoping to have Chris back on. I know I am, especially since I'm flying solo today. You know, it happens every now and then where last minutes when you find out that Chris can't do it or the production team can't make it because there's a storm coming. It's rare, but every now and then I get stuck by myself like this. Fortunately, you know, I host the Right Side radio show, so I do an hour-long show once a week anyway, so what's two, right? We'll see. The Right Side's not live, so I can always hit that pause button if I need to take a break, if I need to cough. I don't get that here. There's no safety net on Chris McDaniel's America, so it is what it is, people. We got to talk about this because the Super Bowl is this weekend. It's going to feature the New England Patriots and the Seattle Seahawks. I could care less about the game. I don't care about either team. I think for the newspaper, I think I picked the Seattle to win. Pretty sure I did. Can't remember. That's how little I care about this game. I honestly can't think of a Super Bowl I've been less interested in a long time. Maybe since the last time the Patriots played the Seahawks. But I'm not here to talk about the game because, as I already laid out, I don't really care about it. Will I watch it? I'll probably have it on. Can't say that I'll be watching it. It's not like there's going to be much else because every other network's scared to schedule anything meaningful opposite the Super Bowl anyway. Every other sports league shuts down because they don't want to be opposite the Super Bowl. But as I said, it's the biggest conversation that folks are having about the Super Bowl isn't about the game. It isn't about the matchup. It's about the halftime show. The halftime show is going to feature an award-winning artist, they tell me, named Bad Bunny. I'm not very familiar with Bad Bunny. I couldn't name one Bad Bunny song. Just can't. Maybe you can. More power to you. If you're a fan, hey, we all like what we like. I don't hate you for being a fan of Bad Bunny. But I'll tell you what I'm not a fan of. Not a fan of Bad Bunny's politics. Bad Bunny, he is going to be performing at the Super Bowl, and he is someone who has been very outspoken against ICE. He's been someone who's been very outspoken about cracking down on illegal immigration. And let me be clear, they are here illegally, and it is causing a problem, and there's a reason to enforce our laws. We have laws for a reason. Bad Bunny thinks we should turn a blind eye to it and allow folks to do whatever they want. I don't agree with that. There have been rumors that Bad Bunny is going to, on the Super Bowl halftime show stage, have some type of demonstration protesting the Trump administration's immigration policies. Not the place for it. The Super Bowl is a sporting event that people want to watch. The game. They're there for the game. They're not there. I would argue that I think the NFL should do away with the stupid Super Bowl halftime show. If you want to have a performance, have it before the game. Have it after the game. I don't like the extended halftime at the Super Bowl anyway. That's just me. Probably because most of the artists don't appeal to me anyway. And if I'm watching the Super Bowl, I'm watching it for the actual game, not for all the other crap. But that's a different sidebar. We'll save that one for another day. But one thing that it shouldn't be turned into is a political show. And there are a lot of rumors out there that's what's going to happen. That Bad Bunny is going to flip this on its head and use this stage that he has been given, which is probably going to be the largest stage he's ever performed in front of when you talk about how many eyes are going to be on it on the television screen. That he's not going to be able to pass this up. There are rumors that Bad Bunny is going to come out and open an address. I guess in a way to say that, hey, guess what? I support transgender people. I'm sure that's going to be part of the reason why he's going to do that. Now, maybe none of this is true. Maybe this is all just rumor, gossip, hearsay. These are the things the folks are hearing. That he's going to come out and he's going to make sure that there's an anti-ICE message. There's an anti-Donald Trump message. And the NFL knew full well when they picked him that this was a possibility, because they knew his politics when they picked him. And then when there was criticism, Roger Goodell and the NFL doubled down, defended, and decided to keep him. Now, maybe they did that because they've already gotten assurances he's not going to do any of the things I mentioned. But we've seen in the past at Super Bowl halftime shows that I don't think the NFL has as much control on them as they like to think they do. Looking at you, Justin Timberlake and Janet Jackson. Don't think the NFL liked that one that year. There are other examples I could point to. The other problem with Bad Bunny is most of his music is performed in Spanish. In America, where this game is being played, where the NFL is headquartered, the majority of the people in this country still speak English. So why would you go get a performer that most of the country is not going to understand? Why would you go tap a performer? Again, get him away from his politics. There are other reasons why this was an idiotic decision on the part of the NFL. Why would you go get a controversial performer that you know is going to turn off a lot of your base? Again, my criticism of a Super Bowl halftime show aside, why would you choose that? And the answer appears to be that I guess the NFL likes Bad Bunny's politics and they want to be seen endorsing. Because again, I know this. If I'm holding an event and I get to pick the performers, I get to pick the speakers, and I know that they have a political leaning, I'm going to pick the ones that lean more my way. I'm not going to just go pick an artist or a speaker that is going to get up there and spout views I don't agree with. So it does lead to the thought that the NFL endorses Bad Bunny's politics. Again, we may be coming back next week and saying, hey, Bad Bunny didn't do any of the stuff that folks were saying he was going to do. We may come back next week and say that, it was a better performance than we expected. I can honestly tell you, I won't be saying that because I'm not going to be watching it anyway. Turning Point USA is actually putting together its own halftime show that's going to run parallel to the Super Bowl halftime show. They're calling it an all-American halftime, which is going to be headlined by artist Kid Rock. So they are putting together a counter-programming I'm not watching that either. I'm sorry, Turning Point. I love Turning Point USA. You've heard me talk about them. I think they're a great organization. I'm not a Kid Rock fan either, so again, none of this is for me on either side. I get Kid Rock's politics probably definitely align more with my own, but I just don't care for his music, so I'm not going to be watching that one either. If I have the game on, I tell you what I'll probably be doing. That's when I'm going to go be fixing whatever snacks or whatever other things that I want during the game. I'll be making sure I attend to that while these performances are happening. I'm not going to be watching this. It's whatever they do. Of course, NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell, he addressed questions about Bad Bunny, possibly making a political statement during the Super Bowl halftime show during a press conference on Monday. And airing this press conference, he was quoted as saying, listen, Bad Bunny is, and I think that was demonstrated last night, one of the greatest artists in the world. And that's one of the reasons we chose him. But the other reason is he understood the platform he was on, and the platform is used to unite people and to be able to bring people together with their creativity, with their talents, and to be able to use this moment to do that. And I think artists in the past have done that. I think Bad Bunny understands that, and he'll have a great performance. Is that not the most nothing statement you've ever heard? What did Roger didn't address any concerns about the fact of whether or not Bad Bunny is going to get up there and turn this into a political stage. If anything, he made me more concerned because it sounds like he's okay with whatever Bad Bunny does because he's a great performer. Is he a great performer? Maybe he puts on a hell of a show. I honestly don't know. Like I said, I doubt Bad Bunny's putting out music that appeals to me. I like to understand the lyrics I'm listening to. That's not a knock on anyone who wants to perform in Spanish. That's your power. I also have the right and the power not to listen to you, but you have an audience, so you do your style of music. It's fine. I don't have a problem with that. But I do have a problem with somebody taking a stage that is meant just purely for entertainment and turning it into a political performance. And look, Roger Goodell, he is, I don't know how much our viewers follow sports, but he's one of the worst commissioners in all of sports. I still think Major League Baseball Commissioner Rob Manfred has him beat. But almost every time I say that, then Roger Goodell comes back and says, hey, hold my beer. But they're both terrible commissioners, both hated by the people that love their leagues. And this is a perfect example of why Roger Goodell is not. Because, I mean, that is the most nothing statement I have ever heard. And it just, again. So I guess the question is, are you going to watch the Super Bowl halftime show? Are you going to flip over to the Turning Point USA halftime show? Are you going to be like me and just find something else to do until they kick the second half off? I think that's probably the best answer when it comes to this. More news as we switch gears, and it kind of ties into left-leaning actors deciding to get political on stage. The Grammys was this weekend. And, of course, I don't watch the Grammys. Couldn't care less who wins or loses. Couldn't tell you who won anything. Don't care. It's another of these preposterous, full of themselves award shows where folks, stand up there and say, hey, look at me, I'm awesome. I don't have time for that. I don't care about the politics. I don't care about the show, but it's also been made just like the Oscars, the Golden Globes, all these award shows. Most of the artists are liberal in nature, in their belief structure, and they're going to get up there and they're going to use this stage, much like We Fear Bad Bunny will, to espout their liberal idiocy. Because again, most of these artists, most of these actors, they're not intelligent. They're just not. They've never really worked in the real world. They're talented, and they got lucky that their talent led them to fame and fortune. I don't hate them for having their fame and fortune, but I will point out that they haven't lived in the real world. Or if they did, they haven't lived in the real world in an awfully long time. They live in their gated communities, and they are far away from anything real, and they have wealth that many of us don't have, although they tend to try to pretend that they hate wealthy people. Makes no sense. Maybe they just self-hate, but I don't know. But apparently, there was a artist there named Billie Eilish, I believe is how you pronounce her name. Billie Eilish, she won a Grammy, and she got up there, and of course she said an obscenity about ICE in her acceptance speech, because why wouldn't she? Why wouldn't you say something like that? I mean, it's crazy that she felt the need to swear up there. I mean, again, they're not, as I said, they're not bright people. So, swearing is the easiest, lowest common denominator that you can utilize, and she did. Here's her quote. She said, "I feel so honored every time I get to be in this room. As grateful as I feel. Honestly, don't feel like I need to say anything, but that no one is illegal on stolen land." Wait again. No one is illegal on stolen land. So again, she wants to believe that the United States is merely just a country on stolen land. Yes, there were natives who were here before the settlers came over from Europe. But again, was it inherently their land? Or weren't there battles and wars fought over and the winner took the spoils? Wouldn't necessarily say stolen. But this is how these people view this country. They don't love this country. They don't feel a connection to this country. They feel a reason to hate. And here she is perfectly espouting that. She was one of many artists who used their Grammy platform to promote social and political reform. Bad Bunny, who we just talked about, going to be at the Super Bowl this weekend. He said ICE out. So again, he's already showing he's willing to get political. Just a week ago, 1 week before the Super Bowl, there he is. No, Roger Goodell, he releases a nothing statement. It's crazy. But I mean, again, this is how they view. They view this as stolen land, the entire country. They don't view, again, if you feel that way, get out. You can go live anywhere else. There's no reason you have to. I'll tell you what, just for fun, Billy, why don't you do this? Bad Bunny, you can follow her. You can go do the same thing. Why don't you sneak into Mexico? Why don't you do what you say that everyone should be allowed to do to America? Why don't you sneak into Mexico and see if you get caught how the Mexican government treats you? I think you'll find that our methods are far more humane than theirs. I think you'll find a very eye-opening situation. Because again, Mexico doesn't play. They like to export folks into countries illegally. They're not a big fan of you entering theirs illegally. This is becoming an absurd thing where, and Miss Eilish is not the only one I've heard make this ridiculous claim. It seems to be a current liberal talking point. Because again, they hate the fundamental founding of this country. They have a hatred of what this country is, what it came from. Some of that comes from lack of intelligence. Some of it comes from, depending on who it is, the indoctrination that they received at whatever public university they attended. Instead of doing research for themselves and coming to the honest, logical truth, they, again, fall back on that emotional branch because that's where they live. I've often said liberalism is based in emotion. That's why it's so appealing. People ask all the time, how can you be a liberal? How can this? Because the emotional appeal. I mean, think about it, people. Everybody wants to try to take care of the needy, feed the poor, find the homeless shelter. Everybody wants to do that. But the liberal, because their emotion overrides them, they want to use the strong arm of government to do it and not take the means themselves to try to help. Because again, emotion tells them, well, government can handle it. But despite all these poverty programs that we have in this country, we still have homelessness. We still have families struggling to eat. We still have major issues. And it's not because Elon Musk has so much money. It's not because Bill Gates has so much money. It's because instead of us doing like we did back in the day, where we tried to take care of our neighbors, we had the churches step up in the community and try to help the people they knew that were in need. We handed it over to government. The least efficient way to take care of anything. The least efficient method to distribute health. You go up to Minnesota and you look at the abuse that has happened right there in their welfare scandal, this daycare scandal up there in Minnesota. And you see example after example. I guarantee you, when that program was put in place, everybody thought, oh, high five, we're going to take care of the needy. We're going to take care of these kids. But instead it was abused. We got lazy, people. As a society, we got lazy because we handed off something that for decades, for centuries, we had done ourselves as a people. We handed it off to government. Nothing got better. Everything got worse because government is not equipped to handle that job. They never have been. They never will be. This country is still the greatest country in this world. It's not stolen land. And again, I don't know if Ms. Eilish has any land. I don't know if she has a home in the United States. I don't know if she lives elsewhere. But again, if it's stolen land, and you have a home in this country, give it to somebody. Give it to a Native American. Nobody's stopping you from doing that, but I don't think she's stepping up to do that. I don't think Bad Bunny's about to give up his mansion and say, you know what? This land was stolen, so you come on, you can live right here because this land was stolen. Billie Eilish is not about to just let people come move into her mansion free of charge, because she feels it. So if it was stolen, why are you here? Why do you own land here? Why are you participating in what you believe to be a stolen land? You can't answer that, can you? Because you're being fundamentally dishonest, just like Chuck Schumer was at the beginning of the show when we were talking about voter ID. Just like Bad Bunny will be on Sunday if he gets up there and starts turning his halftime performance political like most of us are expecting him to do. It's one of those things that I just will never understand why people can't look at the logic and reason in certain things. Because again, you break it down the way that I have been. You go logically. Because once I take that next step and I ask that question, if you think this is stolen land, why aren't you giving your piece of it back? And when they don't, that statement, that argument they're trying to put, it either proves A, they don't believe in it, B, they're hypocrites, or C, they just aren't smart enough to understand that if it is in fact stolen land, they're part of the folks stealing it still because they have their piece of the land. It's crazy, people. This is the world we live in nowadays. This is the things that we are seeing. These are the type of things that we have to deal with nowadays. One story I want to get to before we wrap up. Apparently, a man was arrested yesterday in Ohio for allegedly posting online threats against President Trump and other officials. The suspect of the FBI investigation, FBI agents took into custody a 47-year-old named Charles Bronson Ingram. Excuse me, real quick. Occupational hazard of being by yourself. But the man is accused of posting threats on YouTube along with profile picture of Trump being shot in the head. Ingram, who does not have a criminal record, reportedly admitted to officers he posted the messages online. He is also accused of threatening to kill U.S. Immigration and Custom Enforcement officers, ICE officers. Those officials, of course, we know have faced increased death threats against them and their families during these left-wing protests against them. It's crazy that you would see this happen. And again, this goes back to something we've talked about before. Liberals get mad whenever you attack back at them. But whenever you point out this constant dehumanization, whether it's a dehumanization of Donald Trump, a dehumanization of these ICE agents, a dehumanization of myself, of Chris, of any political pundit, it makes it easier for some of these folks to think that, oh yeah, it's okay to kill them because they're monsters. The fact that they've continued to repeat this time and time again, they've continued to push this out. What have we seen? We saw 2 assassination attempts on Donald Trump's life during the campaign trail. We saw the assassination of Charlie Kirk last year. It's a problem, and they're not dialing down the rhetoric. Remember, after the first assassination attempt against Donald Trump's life, Democrats across the board were saying we need to tone down the rhetoric. We need to tone down the rhetoric. That didn't even last a week. That didn't even last a week. It barely lasted a couple of days before they were right back to calling Trump a Nazi again. Then again, Charlie Kirk's assassinated in September. What do we hear? We got to dial back the rhetoric. We got to try to end these saying things in this certain way. But what happened? That didn't even last a week. They went right back to it. They can't get away from the well. They see the water there in the well, and they're going to make sure that it is bone dry before they move away from it. We get example after example. It's crazy. This Ingram guy, he allegedly wrote that get a gun, find a good location up high, and kill a random ICE agent. Anytime, anywhere, and all the time. So again, is this the type of, and liberals, before you say, oh, you wouldn't condemn a conservative or some, yeah, I would. I don't think there's any place for it. You guys are the ones who preach tolerance. But at the same breath, turn around and spew nothing but some of the most hate-filled messaging I've ever seen. I've said this before, and if Chris was here, I'd ask him about it again. I've seen some of the messages that have been sent to Chris via social media, messenger, email. I've seen some. And I can assure you, these tolerant liberals, they're not so tolerant. Some of the things that you will read are discussed. As somebody who's a political commentator and now a journalist in a newspaper, I've had stuff sent my way calling me everything but a Christian. I mean, it's absurd when you see some of the things that they'll say. And yes, it's gotten worse because of social media, because with social media, folks feel like, oh, They can't see me, so it's easier for me to say this. We have to dial back some of the rhetoric for sure. But it seems like every time something happens, we start to see our side maybe dial down and their side ramp it up because they don't actually do anything. But, this guy wasn't alone. He wasn't alone in saying this. There's a New York representative, Jerry Nadler. He was criticized for appearing to suggest that people would be justified in shooting U.S. ICE agents. He said, what is really a major problem in this country today is the fascism in our streets. The attack on American citizens by masked hoodlums. If you were attacked by a masked person, you might think you were being kidnapped. You'd be justified in shooting the person to protect yourself. Wait, really? First off, this isn't what's happening. And the way that he words it, because again, it's not U.S. citizens that ICE is targeting. It's folks here in the country illegally. Again, it all ties back together to how we started. Emotional argument. He's making the emotional argument. And in doing so, he's endorsing the murder of federal agents. This guy should be kicked out of Congress. This guy should be removed from office. He's a disgrace to say anything like that. But he knows what he's doing. He's playing on the emotions. He's playing on people's fears and insecurities about what they perceive ICE to be. He's dehumanizing these ICE agents and saying it's okay to kill them. Doesn't sound like somebody I want representing me. Doesn't sound like somebody I believe should be in the U.S. Congress. But he's in New York, so he'll probably get reelected, just like old Chuck Schumer. Is what it is, I guess. It's frustrating. It's a game. But maybe next time, no matter what the topic is, if you start feeling that emotion get invoked with you, take a deep breath. And then after you've had that deep breath, you've cleared your head just a little bit, go and do a little research. Maybe you'll find out validation to your emotional response that backs it up logically. Or maybe you'll find out that it was nothing but a bunch of hot air, and maybe you're on the wrong side of that fence. Guys, I appreciate everyone for tuning in today. Really, fingers crossed next week we can work it out and have Chris back with us next week. We definitely miss having him on his show. He has not left the show. It's just the nature of what we're in at the moment. But I'm Jack Fairchild, and this has been Chris McDaniel's America here on the Midnight Ride Network, your home for the anti-establishment movement.
Looks like you've been sleeping well.
Megan, he's back. The My Pillow guy.
And you're looking good.
Still feeling good.
Well, just when you thought it couldn't get any better, we've got the best pillow ever, My Pillow 2.0.
Wow, it's so soft and smooth.
It's cool to the touch. How did you do that?
Well, we took My Pillow's patented fill and combined it with this new technology that we didn't have back then when I invented My Pillow to bring you the best pillow in history, My Pillow 2.0. Just like all of you, I never imagined that My Pillow could get any better. That's why I haven't changed it in nearly 20 years. Then I heard about a revolutionary new technology, and I knew I had to bring it to you all. My Pillow 2.0 is truly the next generation of My Pillow.
The My Pillow 2.0 is cooler and softer than the last My Pillow. It is so comfortable to sleep on at night. I look forward to going to bed, and I wake up well rested in the morning.
Sleep is all about temperature and height. My Pillow 2.0's patented adjustable fill is going to give you the exact individual support you need from your head to your bed. And now here's where it gets even better. We've all experienced those temperature-related sleep interruptions where you get too hot, you toss and turn, you flip your pillow over to the cool side. Well, all that's gone with my brand new My Pillow 2.0 cooling fabric that's made with temperature-regulating thread.
The best sleep just got even better. Whether you have a MyPillow or not, you need to get the brand new MyPillow 2.0. Call or go to MyPillow.com now. Use your promo code, and for a limited time when you buy one, you'll get a second one absolutely free.
You're sleeping even better.
And cooler, too.
And you're looking good.
Feeling good.
I knew you would.
Visit MyPillow.com.